Boom. What's up, everybody? God, that was a loud clap. Sometimes they're loud and sometimes they're not. But I'm on fire today. So welcome to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. It's going to be a cool conversation. We're not going to have Rene Rodriguez till the second half of the call. And that's not why it's cool. Although, Rene, it is kind of cool that we get to talk about a topic and then have you come in the second half and crush it. So I am very much looking forward to that. I am coming to you live out of Lido Island, California. I've been traveling a lot, but I would love to know where you're at. What city are you viewing this content from? Deborah, I assume you are in your normal local habitat of Dallas, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Right.
The deep town, God's country.
Todd is Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe.
We got Iowa representing. We got Chicago, Portland, Oregon. Hey, what's up?
We got the PNW representing good.
I feel like we need a battle of the East Coast versus the West Coast. We have a lot of West Coast people. East Coast,
yeah,
y'all got to step up your
Chicago,
game.
We got Charlotte, North Carolina. We got Boston representing.
A couple folks in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts is coming strong. So right on. So I am willing to guess that just about every city in America, there are some pretty common questions happening in real estate and mortgage. And I put a survey in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group a couple of days ago, and I asked, what are the most, I can't remember if I asked what's the most common questions you're having to answer or what are the most important questions. And I started it with, are rates going to keep going up? Like, I think that's a question that a lot of loan officers are faced with in the market today. Is it still a great time to buy? Should I buy now? That's a really common question. Of course, if you're an agent who's trying to get listings, should I sell now? Is a really common question. And when are rates going to come down? And I don't know which one of those questions is more common or more important. My guess is that if I put 10 loan officers against the wall and I asked each one of them that question and I listened to how they answered it, I would be able to pick out the single highest producer, or let's just say the 2 or 3 highest producers, and I'd be able to pick out the 2 or 3 lowest producers by how confidently, how clearly, and how compellingly they were able to answer that question or answer those questions. So we're going to dedicate this call to that. We're going to have Rene Rodriguez, the king of influence and leadership, come on. His book, Amplify, is getting ready to go live in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about how you can buy cases of that book. I am buying 100 copies of that book this week because I want it to be a book that I give out when I'm at conferences. I'm sure I'll end up buying hundreds of copies of that book, but I'm going to start the Mortgage Coach party with the purchase of 100 of his book. And I am going to push the Mortgage Coach community. If you've ever got value from Rene, or if you believe in the principles that he teaches around Amplify, 1, you need to have the book. And then 2, anybody that you like, respect, or want to do business with, you probably need to get him a book. But we'll talk about that more when Rene comes. So let's welcome my co-host and to this call, Mr. Todd Bookspan. What's up, brother?
Not much. I'm excited. I feel like we kicked this call off with some style today. And I think you just nailed it. The word that you use is the confidence word. I think that is so important. I recently talked to a real estate agent, and what she said is that she believes all of her clients need confidence from their loan officer in this market, and that unfortunately, when a loan officer isn't confident, it's actually causing stress. It's causing uncertainty for her buyers. And so I think this conversation that we're having today is way more important than most people think, because I do believe if you take the time to interview your real estate agents about what's most important, that hasn't been something they've said in the past. In the past, they said, I just want you to make sure you close my loan, right? Some of them say, I want great rates, but really what they want is you to close their loan on time so that they get paid, right? They want a good experience for their clients. But that confidence word has come up in numerous conversations that I've had. And so I think you nailed it, Dave. I think that the loan officer who has the ability to answer these questions that we know are happening over and over again is the loan officer who's going to win in 2022.
Deb, any opening thoughts you want to share before we get and start unpacking this?
Well, it just reminds me of those of you who are following the Modern Mortgage Summit page, which if you're not, make sure you're following it. But we just made a post with a micro clip of Shivani from Scriptapalooza, which she hit this right on the head. I mean, her message was so powerful, and I won't regurgitate what she shared because you can go watch that on the Facebook page. But take the time. I think it's like a 4-minute video clip. It's definitely worth watching, and she just reiterates how you can bring certainty in chaotic times and why it's needed. Because just preparing for this call, I went and was on YouTube and Googling, and there's so much information out there around this topic that it can be very confusing of which one's telling me the truth and which data, where is the data coming from? So I can only imagine as a consumer out there, what they could be feeling, and then look at even just, other brokers in your office or other people in your branch. Are you doing training? Are you doing sales meetings? Are you talking about this so that everyone feels equipped and confident with how to help educate and bring certainty and confidence to your clients?
So one thing that just came up I want to cover before I start asking Todd and Deborah questions, but I'm going to be doing a weekly sales meeting at 11 o'clock every Tuesday for this entire month. And it's going to be called the Mortgage Coach Sales Meeting. And the reason I'm doing this is I believe that every branch manager, every regional leader needs to be doing a weekly sales meeting, and it should be 30 minutes. So I want to lead by example. I'm going to have Jeremy Forcier every week. We're going to try to make it 30 minutes. That's the target. It may go 45. I'm always going to invite, Deborah and Todd. I don't know if they're going to be there or not, but it's mainly going to be Jeremy and I leading by example, great sales meeting and what we think it should look like. But one thing I know for sure that I'm going to be pushing every single leader in the mortgage coach community is it needs to cover loans now. Like, what can we do? These little free prizes, these little loans now, like Jeremy's referral script, where, hey, how is he getting referrals from existing customers? Like, that's costs no money. It requires no setup or training. You can literally implement it within 2 minutes and you have loan now. It's like a free prize. So we're going to make sure every sales meeting has some free prize loan now ideas. I think in order to get confidence, you need to really see this marketplace is a market share opportunity. Like, oh, maybe I'll close less loans. Maybe my P&L will be a little tighter, but I'm going to pick up market share. And you believe that within the core of your heart. Like, it's not a fake it till you make it. You're like, I'm going to pick up market share. I know I'm going to do it. I know how I'm going to do it. And then you have confidence. And I'm going to improve my competitive advantage. Like how do I position myself in a sustainable way so that even when the market's improved, and it will, like rates will come down again, inventory will open up again, that is the way the world works. What comes up goes down, what goes down goes up. But how are you going to turn this crisis, let's face it, it is a crisis for some loan officers, into market share and loans now? Janice will put a link to those where you can get those scripts. Deborah, thank you for putting that Shivani message. 4-minute homework assignment for everyone. Listen to that Shivani message. So let's get into the topic at hand. So Deborah, covering those questions, I know you did a lot of research on this. Bring some fire, share some ideas.
Okay, so the first one is, will home prices go up or down in the next 6 months? So how would you guys answer that if you were an educator in the space, if you're a loan officer coaching up your agents or your teams? What would you prove? What data do you have? How do you bring confidence? Because that's a frequent question.
Who do you want to answer that?
Let's have Todd go first. And then Dave, if you want to bring up any of those slides that I know you have while he's answering that, but.
Well, let me frame it first.
Buy?
Let me frame it first. So we're talking about home prices, and then, the whole beauty of the channel, right? Dave's been doing interviews every Tuesday for over a decade, right? And then We've been doing the Friday interview now for over half a decade, Dave and I. And so our whole goal is to help bring education to all of you, because the education that we bring is really what are the tools that you need to answer these conversations. And so to answer this, I'm going back to the slides that David Childers gave us a few weeks back, right? So Keeping Current Matters, it's a great resource. There's a free tool that you can use if you just watch Keeping Current Matters every day. And then I also subscribe to Dan Rawich's market mentorship program. And Dan does a weekly 18 to 25 minute video where he's throwing in other economic slides. And so that's, for me, would be my go-to resources, as well as the fact that you've got this free other tool if you're a Mortgage Coach subscriber. It's not very pretty looking today because it's a really ugly, red arrow, but it's the Rate Watch app, right? And the Rate Watch app right now is, you've got Dan Rawich's daily commentary that's free. You don't need to sign up for his market mentorship program. It's $100 a month, so it's not very expensive. But ultimately, you have a lot of data and tools that are available for free. And so in order to gain the confidence, you need to spend the time studying it. You need to spend the time watching it. And then ultimately, you've already heard Deb mention it. She's been doing a great job with both my Win by Noon Instagram channel, Facebook channel, as well as the Modern Mortgage Summit channels that she manages through her Plug and Play SM. And there's just great free content for you to watch, use, and share to sound intelligent about it. So I would go back to that and say, gosh, you know what, if you're worried about housing prices going down, you're no different than the rest, right? Over 70% of consumers and over 40% of real estate agents have the same concerns. And unfortunately for them, they're not armed with the data that is there to show you that your home values aren't going down. I recently saw a presentation from one of the leaders in the industry on where prices are going, and he showed the data on how we've got a crazy low supply, in fact, historic low supplies of homes, while I know as a loan officer, I've got more pre-approved clients than ever, right? I'm sure that Deborah, your great realtor, told you that you're most likely going to have multiple offers, and this is a perfect example of that. Now, and then I'm going to pause. And then of course they're going to say, but what, Todd, but aren't prices going to crash like they did in 2000s? And then I'm going to go off and I'm going to talk about, well, you know what, you have to remember back in the go-go times, it was super easy to get a loan. All you had to do was have a credit score and fog a mirror, and you could get 100% financing. You could be somebody making $40,000 a year, and you could state on your loan application that you made $140,000 a year. And at that time, people were buying homes. They weren't even moving into them. They were just speculating that they would go up in value and they'd be able to flip them. And so when the bottom fell out of the market, they were stuck in those homes and they let them go to foreclosure. Since then, there's been financial legislation that requires you to have a lot of financial documentation. We have to actually approve something called ATR, that you have the ability to repay the loan. We actually have proved that everyone now has, for the most part, a down payment and actually a paycheck to do that. And ultimately, if you look, according to the Case-Shiller Index, prices went up over 20%. Again, you're going to know the number for your own market over this past year. So even someone who put down a low amount of money last year has a significant amount of equity. So number one is they all qualified with their having to make a payment. And number two is they all have significant equity. So even if for some reason they lost their jobs or were worried, they wouldn't have to fire sale their home or walk away from it because they've got so much equity built up. Again, and then you're going to pause. Probably the only other thing I would correct myself on is I would have asked them up front, well, what is your biggest concern? And then they would have said, whatever it was, or too many investors buying homes, or too many whoever buying homes. But that would be my initial run. What do you guys think?
Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
I was getting ready to put Dave Childers' slides into our Facebook group. I want to give you guys a heads up that Dave shared slides as of today. So Keeping Current Matters gave us a number of slides. Are you able to see those, by the way, Todd?
Yep.
So all these will go into our Facebook group, a PDF. There's 11 different insights and slides that will be in our Facebook group in a matter of seconds when I'm not talking. They'll help you answer that question. And Todd wasn't able to show you the Rate Watch very effectively, but this is what it looks like today, guys. Obviously, it's not great. So you need to have tools. You need to have tools to tell stories, and you need to make them visual. And again, if you want to do it in a way that improves your competitive advantage, it's who can tell those stories better than others. I see that Keith Collins is on today's call. And Keith, if you want to come on Zoom, we'd love to have you. Just jump on the Zoom and I can actually promote you. It looks like he may be watching this on Facebook, but I would love to bring some more voices in. And I'm not going to do the actual script, because my role as a leader in the industry is to interview great loan officers on proven scripts that work in the market today. And while I might esoterically know some of those scripts, or when I interview someone, I'll write down their script, but I think it's important, as a leader and a coach, that I'm bringing a real world proven, someone that's closing over 300 loans or over 100 loans a year. This is what they're saying, this is what they're doing, and it's working. So I'm not going to give the script. I'm going to make sure everybody knows where the tools are that are part of those conversations. So I'll hand that back. I'm going to get this posted into the group. And Deborah, what I'd love to do, because I know when Rene gets on here within 10 to 15 minutes, he's going to he's going to crush it. He's going to give us talking points. He's going to give us structure. But I want to hear from you, because you're creating a lot of social media content. What are the facts, the data that you think are most important for loan officers to be able to tell this story or answer these questions?
I was just going to say, with all the searches I did over the weekend, where most failed, in my opinion, is I think we have to understand the elephant in the room is that you're still seen as a salesperson. You're a loan officer, or if you're a real estate agent, there's an obvious commission check on the line. So to me, the biggest mistake that I saw is that nobody threw in the numbers to prove what you were saying. And so I think what happens is, because of the stories that people create, and if there's no framing, if there's no narrative that you're setting, and then there's no evidence to prove the data that you're just speaking, it can cause people to wonder, well, how do I know if I can trust you? How do I know if this is real? Where is the data from? And that's what I love about Keeping Current Matters. If you have Keeping Current Matters, they have in those slides that you get, he has in the notes section where you can go see the data and the reports and where they came from. So my advice to those of you listening, I do encourage you to make it in a content calendar where you're strategic and you're consistently sharing these messages. Because remember, people don't always learn right away. There's different learning styles, and sometimes it takes consistent messaging to then wash out old beliefs or old paradigms that need to be kind of rebooted or updated. And so you have to have consistency, but you also have to have the proof in the numbers, which is why I also love TCAs. And today is TCA Tuesday. So make sure those of you who are up for the challenge that you are doing your one-to-many TCA today. But again, that shows proof in numbers. So don't just be the storyteller. Oh, go ahead.
I want to insert something there right there, because a lot of the data that you get from news articles, the data you get from Keeping Current Matters, it's national, and some of it might be like local to the point where it's a state. But when you're doing the total cost analysis, guys, that's hyper local. That can be, and it's hyper personal. And when you're doing the one-to-many, there's a story. It's hyper local, it's hyper personal. There's a specific consumer that you can tell the story around. So I just want to, it's important that you have, articles and content that are national and maybe localized at a state level, but where you really differentiate and you can create separation, competitive advantage, market share, is when you hyper localize it and personalize it. So I just wanted to connect those two big concepts to that, Deborah. Sorry for interrupting.
And I love that you bring that up, because one of the biggest challenges that I give to my clients, which is no different than this is actually my example of what we do. But I tell them, I want you to host your own show that's hyper local, that's every Wednesday. Wednesday's like Webinar Wednesday or Wisdom Wednesday, whatever you want to call it. And you go live, you do it via Zoom. It can be in a private group just like this. And I always say it's no different than what Dave and Todd do on the mortgage coach calls. except we know that every Tuesday and Friday at 9 a.m., you may not always remember who they're interviewing or what the topic is, but you know without a doubt it's going to be value. And even if you can't tune in live, you can always go to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel and watch it later. So those of you on this call, you could do the exact same thing where you're training your audience, which took Todd and Dave years of consistency doing, to then position in the brain that every week they're providing value in the marketplace. But you could do the same thing on Wednesday, say it's from 12 to 12:30, where you're interviewing someone that's local. Maybe it's your top real estate agent, because I usually say make this a once a month rotation where you're taking the data, but now you're making it hyper local. This is what's nationally going on. These are the national statistics. But here's what's going on in Dallas, Texas. And here's why this is important for you. And I help clients set up a content calendar where, the first Wednesday of the month, maybe you're interviewing a financial advisor, and it's just like this. And guys, you don't have to have all the answers. You're just introducing the financial advisor. What are some common questions you're getting in your marketplace with what you do? How can people contact you if they have more questions? Okay, the second Wednesday of every month could be a CPA or a credit specialist. The third Wednesday of every month could be a family law attorney or, bankruptcy attorney. But then make the last Wednesday of every month your go-to industry expert with you that you want to have on your show. Because again, that makes for a very easy call when you're inviting someone to be on your episode for the week, because you're committed to every week providing hyper local value to the communities that you serve. That's all things finance. So that's one thing that I would just add to what you said, Dave, that one, I appreciate y'all's example of doing this every week. And that's y'all's challenge. It's second quarter, so y'all take action and do it.
So right on, guys. So there's some wisdom, some advice. I just had top producer, regional leader, badass, red belt, grandmaster mortgage coach, Keith Collins, jump on stage. Keith, I've been watching you. You're doing a great job on social media. I know your mortgage coach numbers. You're creating a lot of TCAs. You saw the topic at hand. We're going to have Rene Rodriguez join us within the next 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to give him the full stage. But it would be great to hear how you're answering those questions with agents and consumers. And so the question is now a good time to buy? And what's going to happen to those rates? They're going to go down, they're going to go up. Would you mind sharing? Well, first of all, I want to make sure everybody knows what kind of volume you're doing. What kind of production did you do last year, and how are things going right now?
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, man. I was just kind of watching. I was excited about jumping on Rene, and then he texted me to come in. So volume last year, 300 families helped. I'm focused on families help, not necessarily volume. I think volume will follow. And the goal this year is 350. We're on pace for that. So things are doing good, and I'm excited. There's one thing that hit me.
Wait, time out. You also lead and manage loan officers. How many loan officers are in the regions that you serve?
Correct. I lead about 20 loan officers in the region that I serve in Northern California.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. So
go ahead with what you were saying. I just wanted people to know that you're producing at a high volume, you're leading at a high volume, and go ahead with how you're going to answer it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, Deborah said something about you have to have stats behind kind of the statements that you make. And I 100% agree with that. We have to have that information. But what I was actually thinking in that moment is, like, do I actually get questioned when I start throwing stuff out? And I wonder if you've built a local brand in the market, a trusted brand, as somebody who knows kind of what they're talking about. And we do that through, I think, social media. If you've built that brand, I think the trust follows that brand. So if you start hopefully you're throwing the correct information out there, but in those conversations, you start throwing stats out. I don't think that you're going to get questioned, because the brand that you've built is one of trust. But I think it's a very fair conversation right now. And what I have is I have this little market slide PowerPoint that I've queued up through, various sources. And I always just have it on my desktop. So when I'm talking with customers, if they start asking questions about where they think the market's going to go, I like to have that slide ready to go. And I think anytime that you're talking with a client right now, if you can convert it to Zoom or Teams, it's extremely important. if you have the opportunity to create that connection, because connection creates relationships, relationships lead to referrals. And so if you're on the phone with a customer, convert it over to Zoom. I mean, grandma's on Zoom, take the time to do it. But answering those questions, when someone states that, I think the first thing that we do, as originators are trying to respond to that is we don't listen, we just respond, and we start just throwing data out. I like to ask why, right? Why do you think that? So I'm hearing that you're concerned that the market may drop. Why do you think the market's going to drop? Because we have to find where they're coming from so that we know truly what to address in that conversation. I look at a lot of the stats that we have here right now. Recessions don't lead to housing corrections. They actually lead to lower interest rates and home prices appreciating. I think keeping current matters is massive in terms of data, and it's super cheap to be able to get that data. So I use a lot of their data that they have. We're really blessed in the Northern California market, specifically Sacramento. There's a guy, it's called Sacramento Appraisal Blog, and the data that he's putting out, I haven't seen it for any other market. So I follow his blog, and I always know, like, what's the median home price? What's the inventory in the market? How many homes are for sale in my immediate area? And I'm able to go through that with customers to kind of, address the concerns that they have about the market. But I think it's really important for you to understand the why behind the question. Why? Where's the fear? Where's the concern? And then address it head on.
So Keith, I would love, Rene is going to be here soon. He just texted me saying he's on his way. And when he does get here, I want to bring him up on stage and focus on him. Of course, you stay on stage, ask questions, contribute. But would you be game me interviewing you sometime in the next, week, no more than 2 weeks? And we go through a couple TCAs that you're using, and two, that slide deck. Because I have a feeling that every loan officer needs to have a combination of slides and TCAs so that, whether they're on Zoom, they're in person. And I love the way you started. Let's first and foremost, let's connect with the human being. Let's find out why they have this. And then I would just love to see the toolkit you have. It's a combination of slides and TCAs. So Jody, stay tuned. Keep an eye on what's going on in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. And we will have a full 20 to 30 minute me and Keith doing show and tell on how he's doing this. You cool with that, bro?
Yeah, that'd be great, man. I'd love to do it.
Okay, well, stay on this leadership stage. We're going to bring the man of the hour, Rene Rodriguez, into the call. What's up, Rene?
How are you? Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
You want us to give you a couple minutes while you make your bed? I'm just kidding. So it's all good, bro. So guys, Rene is on the road, and he just got off stage, and he took 15 minutes to answer Q&A, and then he's here. So it's a huge gift that Rene is bringing to us in the market, and I think it's important that we're here to support you guys. That's why I'm going to lead by example and do a sales meeting every Tuesday at 11. Come back, see me and Jeremy Forcier at 11. But Rene, you got your book coming out in a week or two. And I said, well, first and foremost, I want to make sure that the Mortgage Coach community supports you in this new book. Check it out, guys. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, I honestly can't. Well, I'll cover up the bed with it. There we go.
Yeah, that's okay. So I've already pre-ordered some, guys. And as I told you at the beginning of the call, guys, I am going to order 100 this week. So I'm going to get 100 of these things. And if you see me out at events over the next month or two, I'm going to have a few to give out. I'm also going to be giving them to different Mortgage Coach folks. I'm sure over the next couple of months, I'll end up buying hundreds of them. But here's what I know. I know that it's never been more important that you're a leader, and it's never more important that you have influence. So Rene, it was your idea to theme this call around these questions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you really take over for the next 28 minutes and walk us through how mortgage coaches should be addressing these issues and questions in the marketplace.
Well, one, Dave, thank you for the support. Thanks for having me back on. It's good to see Deb and Todd and Keith. What a surprise, man. Good to see you, brother. And I'm gonna call on my mortgage pros here, because I'd love this to be sort of collaborative with Keith and Todd and Deb from a social media perspective in this question. And what's funny is that the longer I've been doing this, and it's now 27 years in the sales world, the more you do something, the more it starts to hone in on those few little leverage points that make the biggest impact. And for me, the biggest one, of course, obviously is influence. But then within that, okay, as a sales pro, if I'm in your industry and I want to make the biggest impact I can, no matter their interest rate, and in fact, right now, more important, as interest rates are going up, is I want to talk about the narrative around that, and I want to talk about what your role is within it. But I believe the number one question that you need to answer always, and if you can master, when I say master, I'm saying having 50 responses, taking this week and say, I'm going to develop 5 responses to this question, and I'm going to understand it. I'm going to be the expert on this one question, is why now is the time to buy? And that, if you go back to the science of selling and how we buy, there are 5 things that we have to buy off on before we make a purchase. I got to buy off on you, right? Do I like you? Then I got to buy off on your company, because if I like you and I trust you, your company is what keeps the promise. And if you were to say, I like you and I trust you, but you work for Enron, well, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do that. That can kind of kill the deal, right? Or if I like you, but who's the bank that's getting? Well, me and my buddies were pulling the money together to get you a loan. No, that's not a good company. That's not going to keep the promise. I like you. I like the company. Learn your company story. Second, do I like the solution? I like you. I like the company, and the solution you're offering me makes sense. And so you got to get good at needs analysis and be able to communicate a good solution. And fourth, I like you, like the company, and the solution solves my problem, but is it worth the money and the time and the risk that you're asking me, the investment? And those 4, most of you are pretty good at being liked, selling your company, offering a great solution. And you know what? You're not asking for any money. You are asking for risk, which you got to be able to create strength around that. But the 5th one is where most sales fail. The 5th one is the one that derails the process. And what elongates the sales process is around urgency and timing. Is now the time to buy? You can give the greatest presentation, build trust, and then somebody goes, oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Keith. Well, I'm going to watch the market a little bit more, and let me get back to you. I'm going to talk to some other people. If they're feeling that way, if they're not acting, you have not done your job of creating urgency. And the urgency is around every moment I wait before I purchase, I'm losing money. And if I can fix that and answer that question, the sales process speeds and people get into homes faster. Because here's the other reality. If the longer you wait to get your consumers into homes, the more expensive it's going to be for them. And the more they're going to miss out on the growth opportunity. And so there's a phrase that Carlos that came into one of our last sessions, we challenged the whole team with that and Amplify, of how do you change the narrative around rising interest rates? And he came up with this great phrase. He said, it is now time to take advantage of the rising interest rate market. And I love that. Look at the words used. It's time to take advantage, with a smile, of the rising interest rate market. And people are like, well, take advantage of rising interest rate? Yes. There are all sorts of advantages right now to buy during rising interest rates. And it's more than that, because it's not about rising interest rates. It's about where the housing market is right now. There are so many things that are happening. And I tell people, you're going to either have 1 or 2 conversations in 5 years, and maybe even 10 years with your clients. One is saying, thank God, Rene, that you got me into this house. Todd, thank you for making the case for getting me into this home, because look at the equity I built and look what my position is in the market. Or you're going to have the other conversation of saying, why didn't you push me hard enough? Why didn't you explain to me what I'd miss out on by not buying? There isn't a single person that says, I wish I wouldn't have purchased a home. I wish I wouldn't have done it. And so if we can get to be the ones that are best at answering that question of why now is the time to buy, you will outpace your competition, and you will be able to provide the information that people need to be able to make that purchase. And so I know that, by far my favorite source of all of that information is Keeping Current Matters. I know that you've got some stuff on that. KCM blog is amazing. Steve Harney and Bill Harney, amazing. Dave Childers, just an amazing group of people over there. But I want to just stop. That's the concept behind it. And we can talk about the narrative in just a second. But I want to go to Todd and Keith and Deb and anybody and Dave on that thought there, because you guys are practitioners. You guys are the ones in there talking to clients and getting people to actually into loans. What's your thoughts on that whole piece?
Let me go first, and then I'll pull each of those guys in for a minute. I just put a post when I was listening to Rene talk. It reminded me of a LinkedIn article I wrote in 2017 called "The 4 Mental Trigger Top Producers Use to reduce rate shopping and increase referrals. So 2-minute homework assignment, guys. I just posted that in chat. Don't do it during the call, like stay tuned in, but I do want to drive that because it's just as gold today as it was in 2017. So Keith, you're the real world guy in the market today. Why don't you answer Renee's question?
Yeah. So, what I would try to lead with the client is say something like, look, like I would feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't ask you this question. And the question that I would ask them would be something like, are you willing to risk waiting at the expense of paying more for your home in the future? And see where they kind of go with it. If they're saying, hey, we're just going to wait to see what the market happens. The question, see what happens in the market. Or, the thing that we get a lot right now is I'm going to wait for the housing prices to come down. And I sometimes insert in there, and it might be a little harsh, but hey, look, like that sounds like hope, and hope is not a strategy in this market. I am actively buying real estate in this market because I believe it's going to be going up. I would like to take 5 minutes just to show you why I think now is a great time to buy.
Boom, guys, go back. It is 9:39. That started at about 9:38. Re-listen to what Keith said. And remember, guys, I'll be interviewing him again soon. Deborah, you got a minute to respond to Renee's question.
The feedback I got, and Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not like when you ask the question, the real question, and reveal the truth behind the answer and dig a little deeper. I have found it's not that people don't know it's a good time to buy. It's just, where am I going to go? Like, I know I could sell my house and make a lot of money, but where do I go? And that, the agents that gave me feedback, that was their number one question right now is, if I sell, so people aren't listing. And that's the problem, is how do we get people to list their home? They're not listing because they don't think they have any place to go. So it just gets worse. So how do you solve that root issue?
That's a fair one. And that's a real hard question. That's a real hard question because for some people, they have to have a high enough desire to want to move, and we have to go back and to that reason. We have to try to identify, like, well, what started this conversation of you thinking about moving? What was the motivation? Why did you want to move? And then try to lock in on that. But I mean, that's a really fair statement. Is some people might have an extremely low interest rate. They could have an interest rate in the 2s, and the home could be great. So for me, from a mortgage standpoint, it might be a pivot. It all depends. I mean, I have to honor the real estate agent in that conversation too, but it might be a pivot to looking at something that we can do in the home to make the home better suit their needs. But if that's a really fair question, it's like, where am I going to go? What am I going to trade? I'm going to go buy this home, and the home's going to be more expensive. I think the bigger question is should we buy right now? And so if someone's sitting on the fence and thinking about buying, I think those are very easy to overcome through stats and data. That's a really good question, though, is if someone's saying, I'm just going to sit because they don't have the high enough motivation, or we've not found a high enough motivation for them to sell and then buy something else.
I would
sell in a heartbeat.
Real quick, guys. Real quick, because I do want to make sure we focus on get Renee's stuff out here. I do want to tell everybody, like, if you're a mortgage coach and there's someone that is even willing to have the conversation about moving up, if you have not done a move up analysis to give them clarity around what is, based on your equity, based on what you want in your market, if they don't have the clarity of a move up analysis, you haven't done your job. Like in this market, doing a move up analysis is as important as a pre-approval. It's actually more important than a pre-approval. So, because then the consumer can't have clarity around what moving up means. So how can they be motivated? If they're, how can they optimize their motivation if they don't have clarity? But Todd, I want to give you a minute, and then we're going to give it back to Rene.
Before we go to talk, can I just say one thing on this one? Because I want to get Todd just on that piece, because this goes back to what I was talking about. If the data is, their fear is around, where am I going to go? The reality of that depends on the narrative you place around it. And if we say that, if we feed into the fear, you've accepted a narrative that is, to me, false. The narrative we need to place around it is that, I don't know where to go. And that's exactly why you need to buy, because that shows you the value of a home. If you're scared to get rid of it, think about when you have one. That is the precise reason you need to buy now. Because if people were not scared of getting homes, like get rid of them, I'll get another one, then there's no value in it. That you need to shift the narrative and saying, exactly. They go, what do you mean exactly? That's why it's so valuable. And that's why so few people are going to take advantage of it. That's why there aren't so many wealthy people in the world, because so many few people have the vision to see that this is the opportunity now. If you embrace the narrative of the fear, then you are just perpetuating the fact that no one's going to make an indecision or that this is it. But if you say, then buy another home, you won't regret it. Or this is the reason why you need to do it, because now start the process. And to Keith's point, those people are on the fence. That's where it gets there. But and I want to come back after Todd to talk about what I mean by narrative, because the narrative control on this is what's going to determine what people do. But that is precisely the reason why the value is so high.
So what I would do, I said it before, is I think the biggest thing is to ask them, what's your number one concern? Because I think we've had so many conversations and so many scripts through Scriptapalooza and through David Childers and all these other interviews we've had. What Keith just said a few minutes ago was brilliant. And the whole goal always is to make sure, that we're shooting the puck in the right direction. So if we're going to answer the question with regards to supply and demand, but their number one concern really is interest rates, let's make sure that we answer the right question. But if it was me, I would be using what Rene just said. It's time to take advantage of the rising interest rate market. And then I would frame it. I would tell whatever story it is I want to tell around their question that they had. I might say, hey, you might have seen recently on CNBC, they actually posted 10 markets around the country where home values since over the last 10 years haven't gone up at all. That's what the big news does, is they're trying to sell you on bad news. But hey, you're here in Phoenix, Arizona. Our market was the hottest market last year. It went up 32% year over year, according to the Case-Shiller Index. And it's expected to go up almost the same again this year. I don't think it'll go up quite that high when I look at all of the data that I've studied. However, the bottom line is, even if it goes up a normal 5 to 10%, you're going to do really well. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the rising rate market, because as we head into a recession, the real estate prices historically always go up. And then I would pause and let them tell me what they think and decide how to respond from there. How would you sharpen that, Rene?
Oh, I think you're right there. It comes down to you as loan officers are controlling the narrative around this, what's going on. And the way in your approach, through your smile, through your tone of voice, is either going to perpetuate that we're in a tough market or we're in a great market. I just got off stage. We had 500 leaders in there, sales rally here in Marco Island. And we went up there and I said the same thing. I said, somebody said this is a tough market. I said, but I know the pros out there are saying, thank God interest rates are going up, and they have a smile. And they're saying, because we know what that means. And I see Keith smiling big, and anybody here who's producing big, they're going, I know, thank God, because we can get back to being advisors. We can start using the tools that Mortgage Coach provides to be able to show, here's what it really means. And in the grand scheme of things, let's take a look, just zoom out a little bit of where interest rates are in the grander scheme of the last 40 years. We're in an amazing time. This is amazing. And so just because you feel like you didn't hit the bottom of the market doesn't mean there isn't opportunity right now. If you had a baseball card and you had this only baseball card, and somebody's saying, well, now's the time to buy the baseball card. Well, I have 50 of the same card. Not that much value in the baseball card. But when you got one, and this is that rookie card, if you can get your hands on that card, it's only going to go up in value. That's where homes are at. And so the fact that people are scared to move, not because they just don't know where they're going to go next, only says this is the time. So guess what? Yeah, it's going to be a little harder. But guess what? The value is going to be a little bit bigger too. That's why it's like I find it funny around just the hard work that we forget that we have to put into value. This industry is going to get harder, but you get paid doctor money to do it. So let's put doctor work ethic, let's put doctor discipline involved in that to go after the opportunities that you just came to us so easily before. Let's use the information and manage the narrative. And to Todd's point, the media is not a public service organization. It's not there to make us feel better. It's there to sell us things. And unfortunately, we are wired to buy into negative bias. We're there, and the negative bias is there because we survive longer by seeing the negative things in the world. I see, well, this potential threat over there. Well, we're going to see that. That's an ancient function of who we are that now just happens to be in a modern world where we use the media to scare us into doing things. So let's be smarter than that. Let's look at the data and let's look at the reality of saying, you know what? Homes are valuable. And now we better get our hands on as many of those things as possible. And you all have the ticket and you all have the plan to be able to show us how to. but you got to believe that first.
The one thing I was going to throw out there to you, Keith, is I think one way, two different strategies. One would be for those of you who do bridge loans, there's strategies to help people with that nervousness or insecurity of, but if I sell, where am I going to go? Well, here's how, and not every lender can offer this. So this is one way that you can stand out and really help educate of what a bridge loan is to help solve that narrative. The other one, which is the very thing that I was talking to clients on a year ago, is, you know, when you look at what's essential, I have a great house. I have a 2-something% interest rate. I would love to move. I'd love to sell. The truth is, and the narrative or the numbers will prove there's nothing for me to buy locally. So as much as I would want to buy, is it really essential? And would I want to go outside and maybe build? No. So where can you go and diversify your business right now for the people who have to list because of life events, like divorce attorneys? I know in my area, 70% of the decrees filed are represented pro se. That means they don't have a divorce attorney. And how are these people dividing their largest asset? Even divorce attorneys, how are they coming up with the number of how the home is valued? Like, what is the market value? Is it what an appraiser says, which, by the way, appraisers have to use a different form. If you guys didn't know that, it doesn't stand up in court if they don't. But where can you go and venture out on your multiple annuities of income of in a market right now? Who are the people, because of certain life events, have to sell? And do you have a strategy attacking those prospects?
Well, they're all really good points, Deborah, you know, and great strategies, by the way. But let's, you know, the one thing that we got 10 minutes left and we have Rene, I want to make sure we give, you know, the framework and the stories to answer that one question, but great ideas.
Hey, can we real quick, Rene, how do we get your book? What's the best way to get it?
Well, it depends if you want to buy more than 20. No,
Right,
Amazon right now.
We're all going to buy more than 20. So if we're going to, so Amazon, if we're not going to buy more than 20, if we want to buy more than 20, where do we go?
Just send an email to either Jenny or Maddie at meetrene.com. And it's
bought 200, by the way, not to start a competition.
Oh man, Keith, I thought I was
200.
but I thought I was big dogging when I did 100.
I mean,
better
it's
up it,
Rene,
baby.
man. You got to put 200 of these books in people's hands. It will bring value.
appreciate that, guys. I do. You know, it's
Well,
what's
I want to say one more thing before we jump off that topic, though, because, you know, this is the mortgage coach community, and anyone that watches this video, if you've ever gotten value from Rene, it's time to buy a book. And I know just about everybody in this community is going to buy a book. Like, I don't have any doubt that you're going to buy one of Rene's books, but the timing of when you buy these books matters. And I'm going to let Rene speak to that in a minute. So, and then I also, to the point that Keith made, now's not the time to just buy one book. Now's the time to buy a bunch of books, because one, it's going to help Rene in this book become one of the best-selling books in business, which I think it already is, topping a lot of charts. And so it's a way to give back to Rene, but guys, it's also a way to make change. Like, if you believe what I believe, what I've dedicated my professional life to, loan officers can be the single most valuable advisors in America. You know, we just had a news break where the state of Florida is making financial literacy a criteria for high school students to graduate from high school. Like, financial literacy, mortgage management, it's trending in the marketplace. So we got to be great leaders. It means we got to not just read Rene's books, we got to put those ideas into practice. And we need to buy a lot of those books and give them out to all of our folks. So Rene, I know you got more stuff to cover on this, but to buy bulk, we got a couple emails. So thank you for that. If you're watching the recording of this, it's Jenny at meetrene.com and or Maddie, and I'll put those links down below. But what is the time frame? I know there's, you know, when you launch a new book, if people, you know, buying it a month from now is not as valuable as buying it today.
Well,
is that right?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, it's humbling to hear you guys say that, and it's humbling to feel the support. And Dave, you've always been so supportive, and I love this community. I've been a part of it for over 15 years with you now, and just everything we do, our friendship and everything. And so the timing is around reaching bestsellers, and we've been on a campaign for the last couple of weeks We are very close. I think we just surpassed the numbers needed for Wall Street Journal bestseller, which was our huge goal. And our next one is we get a few more going. We're going to be at USA Today bestseller as well. And the way it works is it does have to happen within this next week by April 11th. And so the bulk orders are 20 plus. It does bring the price from 28 to 25. But the reason people are buying them though is this book, the way I wrote it is really, I wrote it for the broader audience, but the secret is there is so much mortgage specific content in this book just because this industry has been good to me and I love it. But it's the ability to understand the real backdrop to what amplifying and influence the science is, but it's also the applied science. And so you're being able to read this, and I'm going to handhold you from beginning to end. The whole book follows a story arc of how you can really apply this into your business. I'm going to walk you through developing your story, the science behind it, the importance of a value proposition, how to create it, identifying your personal story, origin stories, signature stories, and if you really want to get nerdy with it too, the science behind why, followed with strict application. And so the applied science is where my passion is. And so these books are great gifts. Some of us, if they're looking at doing, 100 plus event or 100 plus purchase, let me know. We'll do a virtual event with you where you can use the book as a ticket. And the reason we do that is to say, get a book, it's $25.92 in bulk, but a ticket to see Amplify $6,000, to do virtual, it's almost $3,000. These tickets are expensive, but if you buy a book and then you get, let's say you get 10 to 20 books and you have 10, 20 meetings with realtors and you say, hey, I want to give you a gift. And you talk about this book. There's a whole website we have with video, and use this as a way as a ticket to a virtual event that we'll create for your realtors. And so that's the reason people are buying them in bulk. And they also just make great gifts. So that's one, thank you. And yeah.
All right, guys, so let's get after it. We will do some posts on this. We will get the message out. Everybody that's ever got value from Rene, now is the time to support that, not just Rene the man, but the mission, the Amplify mission. And that also goes for the Mortgage Coach mission. This is go time, guys. Let's get out. Let's make change. Realtors are scared. Mortgage professionals are concerned. This is a market share opportunity. This is a leadership opportunity. Let's do sales meetings and let's focus on Amplify. All right. So Rene, we got 5 minutes left, and I know that you, one, picked this topic, and two, you had some content you want to share. Is there anything else you want to make sure we cover before we run out of time?
No, to me, it's any question that comes back to you, whether it be the questions of where I go or the fears or everything. What my urge to everybody here is to sell yourselves first on why now is important to buy. If you can sell yourself on that, if you're not sold on it yourself, you're not going to be able to communicate that to the marketplace. If you're following the ups and the downs, the emotional upswings and the moodiness of the industry, forget moodiness. Stop being so emotional and buy into this beautiful opportunity that you have in front of you. You believe in it. You're selling it. There isn't a single person that says, I wish I wouldn't have done this. This is a great thing to do, but you got to buy into it and then become the expert on communicating it. Be so good at understanding the way to communicate the urgency that people can't wait. And here's why. Think about it from this perspective. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Have you ever listened to an expert on the market or even a comedian talk about something, and you try to regurgitate the joke at work and it just bombs? You're like, oh, it was so much more funny when they said it. And that's how a lot of people are when it comes to market information. Well, you should have heard this other person talk about it. And I say, why not you be the one that can tell the joke the same way the comedian can, or you can talk about the market the same way the expert can. If you do that, guess who's going to call on you? Because you're going to share that information with your realtor partners and referral partners. They're going to go, oh man, Todd was telling me, you got to just hear how Todd does it. And they're going to call you, Todd, can you say that same thing that you shared with me? Because you got me excited about the market. Can you help me get my clients excited? And if you can be that person that people want to say, can you just get me on the phone with them? Because if I get you on the phone, my clients get excited. You become that resource. So my urge to you is this: become the expert. listen, read, follow, repetition, learn, engage. I mean, literally, Mortgage Coach is giving you the answers to the test to get an A+ from all the top people that are making millions. If you just digest the information and then get in front of a mirror and present it, and then get out there in the market and streets and present it, you will be really, I believe, deadly in the marketplace. And so for me, sell yourself on it.
And Rene, this page, amplify with 2 I's book.com, this is a place to really buy a book. Is that right?
Yes.
And then if people want to do bulk orders of 20 or more, is this a place to do it, or you want to
click on that? It should go to Jenny or Maddie. Let's see that. That should go. Yep. That's going to go to the right place.
Okay, cool. So, so guys, this is the page. You know, we want to rally around amplify with 2 I's book.com. There'll be a link below. It's got links to learn. This is a place that we want to focus for the next, what's the big day? We got to sell
April 30th or April 11th, excuse me, April 11th. The book ships on the 26th.
So really the challenge, guys, and I don't want to put too much pressure on folks, but I think 100 is the right number. Let's get hundreds of mortgage coaches. If you're a grandmaster of mortgage coach, that means you've done 1,000 TCAs and you've been through Amplify. Why would you not get 100 of these books and use them in their sales process? And by the way, guys, if you haven't been to Amplify, something that costs $6,000, travel expenses, why would you not buy this book, read this book, and buy 100 books to give out? And so tremendous value here. Todd, any call to action notes? We got a minute to go, but anything you want to make sure we say before we wrap?
Absolutely.
And Deborah, I'm going to come back to you for closing thoughts.
Yeah, I just think your call to action was spot on, right? If you've been through it Amplified, then you can afford 100 books. You know it's worth it, and you should be spreading the message out there. And it's just such a great reason to follow up. If you can't afford 100 books, right? You're a newer loan officer. That's okay. Buy the book for yourself, so you've got a story to tell to your agents, and then you can encourage them to buy it as well. But you've got to buy it and read it, because ultimately, in the end, it's the ultimate opportunity, right? It's the whole thing of mail them that book. Even if you bought 5 books for your 5 realtor prospects and you read the book yourself, you mailed it to them, and then you called them to set up an appointment so that you could sit down with them and then tell them why it's important to you and what your top takeaways are from the book, right? You could create a lunch and learn around it. You create a little book club around it. There's so many opportunities, even just with you and other loan officers in your office. So I would just encourage you all, let's support Rene. Rene's done so much for our community. And the bottom line is you're going to benefit when you do it.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Deborah, any closing thoughts from you before we run out of time?
Just the 3 homework assignments that were given during the call were: make sure you listen to Shivani on the Modern Mortgage Summit Facebook page. So it's a quick 4-minute video, highly recommend it. Check out the LinkedIn article that Dave shared for the 4 mental triggers. And then your last piece of homework is do the move up TCA for your 1-to-many strategy for your TCA Tuesday.
Right on, guys. Well, hey, first of all, thank you everybody for your time, your attention. Hopefully, you got the value. The question is, will you put the value into practice? Will you take the action that we discussed? I feel really confident that we brought it. Remember, in an hour from now, I'm going to be doing a weekly sales meeting and trying to lead by example on what it looks like to do a high impact, engaging 30-minute to 45-minute weekly sales meeting. And for all you leaders and managers that are watching this, amplify. I would be making amplify tactics and strategies from the book part of your weekly sales meeting. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for everybody's time. Rene, great to see you, brother.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Keep me updated. I expect 100 book sales from the mortgage coach community. So let me know when we hit the 100. 100 and 100 is the game.
I'm in. I'm committing. I've already emailed Maddie.
I love you, dude. Thanks. Maddie's probably in the thread here too, so she'll probably post something.
All right.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.